So today's math lesson comes from chapter 5, lesson 3, where we're talking about estimating quotients. So our essential question is, how can you estimate decimal quotients? So here's a story problem for you. Carmen likes to ski. The ski resort where she goes to ski got 3 2/10 feet of snow during a 5-day period. The average daily snowfall for a given number of days is the quotient of the total amount of snow and the number of days. Estimate the average daily snowfall. So we're going to use the cube strategy here to solve this problem. So with cubes, the C stands for circle the numbers. So as I'm reading, I see that I have 3 2/10, and I also have the number 5. I have no other numbers here that I need to use. The U is underlined the question. Well, that normally comes at the end. So this problem, the question is estimate the average daily snowfall. B means box the keywords. I'm going to box estimate. I'm going to box quotient because that's kind of my big red flag that we're dividing. I'm going to box average. And I'm going to box feet because that is what my label will be. So now when I solve this, I need to pull out my numbers. So I have 3 2/10, and I'm going to divide that by the 5-day period. So we can actually estimate decimal quotients by using compatible numbers. So when we choose our compatible numbers, we can actually look at the whole number part of a decimal dividend and kind of rename it to something that is in the tenths or the hundredths. So in division, this first number is called my dividend. And the second number in the problem is called my divisor. And the answer is called the quotient. So because my divisor, my dividend, the 3 2/10 is less than my divisor, I have to kind of think about this problem in a different way. So because my 3 2/10 is less than the divisor 5, I need to rename that dividend. So I need to think to myself, 3 2/10 is actually what in tenths? Well, I know that 3 2/10 could actually just be 32 tenths. That's what I can rename it as. So now I want to think of a number that kind of divides in a 0 or a 5 because I'm going to keep this divisor as a 5. I'm going to keep that by itself. So now I'm saying 32 tenths divided by 5. So what could I turn 32 into where I could use compatible numbers, an easy math problem in my head? So I can turn it into 30 tenths divided by 5, or I could turn it into 35 tenths divided by 5. Both would be using compatible numbers, easy math in my head. So if I did 30 tenths divided by 5, that would give me 6 tenths. Or if I did 35 tenths divided by 5, that would give me 7 tenths. So one's a little lower and one's a little higher. So I know that my actual answer should be between 6 tenths and 7 tenths. So let's look at another way to do compatible numbers. I have this problem here. And just as a reminder at the top, I wrote down what compatible numbers are. They're numbers that are close to the given numbers that make it easier to calculate it in your head. So I have this problem, 249 7/10 divided by 31. Remember, my first number is my dividend. The second number is my divisor. So I can think back to chapters ago when we worked with compatible numbers, and I can think about my 3 steps. So my first step is to round the divisor to the nearest 10. So this is my divisor, the 31. If I round it to the nearest 10, that would make that number 30. Because remember, the nearest 10, your number is ending in a 0. So now I can find the multiples of 30 that the dividend, which is 249 7/10, is between. So to do this, think back to when we did this before with whole numbers. I can ask myself, okay, I have 249. what numbers can I start multiplying with 30 to get close to that number? And I'm going to start off with 30 times 10. I know 30 times 10 equals 300, and that's too big. That's too big for 249. So now I'm going to go down some. I'm going to say 30 times 9. And I know 30 times 9, 3 times 9 is 27, and then add a 0. 270. All right, so I'm getting a little closer. Let me try 30 times 8. 3 times 8 is 24, and then I have 1 0. So 270 and 240 would be my one right above, one right below for my new estimated dividends. Now it says divide each multiple by the rounded divisor. So what that means is I'm going to take this 270 first. My rounded divisor was 30. So I'm going to take my 270 divided by 30. And I don't need to do any work because if I look back at the problem, the number that is left, that factor, is actually going to be my quotient. So that's going to be 9. And then I can do it again with the other one that was right below it. 240 divided by 30 equals 8. So my estimate would be 9 or 8 using compatible numbers. Let's look at one more. I have the problem 23 and 6/10 divided by 7. So I'm going to use compatible numbers again. This step 1 says round the divisor to the nearest 10. Well, I can't round it. It's only one number. So I'm going to keep it as 7. So I'm going to keep this number the same in this case. So find the multiples of 7 that the dividend 23 and 6/10 is between. So I want to think in my head 7 times what number will get me really close to 23. So I can start off by saying, well, I know 7 times 4 is 28. Okay, that's a little too big. Let's keep going. Let's go down. 7 times 3 is 21. If I go any lower, it's going to be smaller. So I have one number, this 21, is right below the 23. And this 28 is right above the 23. So I can use both of these. So it says divide each multiple by the rounded divisor of 7, which we kept the same. So when I write my division problems, I'm going to take now my new dividends that I just used my compatible numbers for. I'm going to say 28 divided by 7 equals 4. And I'm also going to write 21 divided by 7 equals 3. So I would technically, though, if I were to be asked for one estimate, I would use this 21 divided by 7 equals 3 because 21 is a lot closer to 23 than 28 is to 23. Let's look at one more. 469 and 4/10 divided by 62. So step 1 was round the divisor to the nearest 10. Well, my divisor is 62. And when I round that to the nearest 10, I want that number in the ones place value to be a 0. So I'm going to round it to the 60. Step 2, find the multiples of 60 that the dividend 469 and 4/10 is between. So I'm going to start multiplying. I'm going to say 60 times, I'm going to try 60 times 10. Well, that equals 600 because 6 times 1 is 6 and then add 2 zeros. That's way too big for 469. So now I'm going to go down 60 times 9. I know 6 times 9 is 54. And then I can add 1 0, 540. Okay, it still seems a little too big. Let's keep trying. 60 times 8. 6 times 8 is 48. Add 1 0. Okay, so that seems to be the number that might be right above. Let's keep trying. 60 times 7 equals 6 times 7 is 42. Add a 0. So here is my right above dividend. Here's my right below dividend. So now I can divide each multiple by the rounded divisor of 60. So I'm going to say 480 divided by 60 equals 8. And then I'm also going to say 420 divided by 60 equals 7. So my estimates are 7 and 8.